Hi, good evening everyone. Yeah. A small introduction about myself, Ravi Kant Sharma, a computer science graduate, done my engineering back there in 2005. Didn't get a job in on campus drive, and that's why I'm fortunate enough to be the part of this gaming industry. Either I could have been another Sharma ji ka ladka in some Infosys or Satyam. So I always crazy about the games. The childhood gone into the gaming, the entire like engineering, all the nights gone in like Command and Conquer, Quake, Age of Empires, and after I had done my engineering, I was looking for a job where I can find my interest. Back then 2005-6, gaming was growing. Not so many companies were around, and it was tough to like somewhere align your interest with your dream company. Luckily, got a job in Gameloft and started as a QA rather than a developer because I always wanted to go through the experience side to like learn from the player perspective and involve more and contribute more. But being as a part of QA somewhere like after 3 or 4 years working on a creation project itself, I felt like what my good feedbacks are almost considered as a suggestion or bugs, and they never went to the game. So why should not I move into some different role where think I can think more, I can evolve more, and I can contribute, and I can make those ideas live. So then, like I moved into game, Digital Chocolate as a game producers, launched couple of titles there. Then one of I joined one of the startup called Twist Mobile as a core team member, and where we made company from like 20, 70 people, running my startup for like 3 years. It was, I would say, experience whatever I gain into the production and leading the team of production. It's something different. Now, like that experience I'm using in Zynga, and I'm in Zynga from last 4 years and running a game called Farmville 2. So, that was all about myself. Let's move to the topic. So, being as a game producer from last 8 years, I'll be talking about the game producers and where the role started. Okay. So, the overview will be, for the talk will be the origin of the title, when, how, and why, and how to define the optimized timeline for any of your project. So, origin of the title. I would just like to understand how many people are from the production side. Few people I know in person, but like okay, great. And product management, okay, great. So, any idea when, what year the game producer role started? Just any guesses? Okay, then I'll tell it. It's somewhere in 1982-83 when Trip Hawkins used the title. Officially, he announced the terms called game producers. Like when he was founding his company called Electronic Arts. Who else? Okay, sorry. Before I'll go to the how, who else? How? So somewhere like in 1982, they were figuring out like how to collaborate all these functions together and arrive with it. So initially there was not as such role and there were no defined job profile for them. So somewhere Trip Hawkins like picked one guy from the product marketing, one guy like two people good in the engineering from his previous employer from Apple, and one guy from sales and one guy from like executive recruitment. Now who else? The similar time. Then the game called Time Zone, when officially they also use the term called game producers. And IIT2, when they launched their game into the Apple PC2, then in the credit section, officially they introduced the game producer role for the first time. Who is the first producer? Any idea? No. Okay. So Brett Federer was the first producer in Activision, and who is the first person in the world who hold the title of the game producer, and who was the initial or like I would say the creator of the few of the like most successful genre called computer solitaire games, Mahjong, also called Shanghai, and Solitaire Royale, back then in 1987. Why? So why the game producer role started? And already we were making the games from last 15 years. Why like the producer term introduced into the system? So we'll talk about why. Like there are reasons. The reason where like it was more like a premium gaming. When whatever you will make, it will go out. So it started with the market and research. whatever the ideas will be developed and will be launched after 3 years. So market research was more important. Those ideas and market research should go into the design. Design will come up with something, and that design should be supported by art to arrive with the visualization. And then visualization obviously should go into the development, and that development also enhanced through your sound and the localization, so you can launch in multiple countries. Then obviously the legal and licensing part. So if you are like working with some movie, some titles, the known famous companies, then obviously the legal and licensing, QA obviously, and the distributions, because it was more like a physical distribution. So once your like game is developed, it will be distributed through some hard media. But who will be coordinating with all these functions? These all functions were good always. Like the function wise, we all are good. But somewhere they were looking for someone who can collaborate with all of them, who can enable all of them and take it forward. That's why like the term introduced as producers, and the initial idea from Tip Hawkins and all those companies was like someone who will talk who will talk to all these functions and get best out of it for a player. So in general, if you'll ask me, what producer do? Producer talk to their internal team, talk to collaborate with all those functions, and always ensure that whatever they are developing, it develop for the player. The expectations. So if we'll talk about the producer role, the expectations are different. It differs from studio to studio. It differs from, also based on their game expertise and their production expertise also, the role differ. So for example, EA, they have a term called DD. They are more like a project manager who always ensure the timeline and the budgeting part. There are game producers like who will just ensure that the quality of the product and the feature is awesome. Apart from that, there are people like art production. The producer will just ensure the art pipeline is going smooth. The line producers, there are localization producers, there are sound producers. So depends on the studio and the requirement. Expectations are different. But mostly, if we'll just talk about a game producer, back then where there no PM, and we'll talk about just game producers, the expectations were completely dependent on three major factors. The first was platforms. What platforms you are working on? Because it's all very important factor when you are working on a game, and how the production timeline will work. So the platform like console, are you working on a console? So like it's more like a premium game. You will develop that entire experience first and you will launch it later. If you are working on like tablet, mobile, PC, so somewhere the device constraint will insist you to make some game around it, maybe the downloaded or PC version, where your game just are more like an executable file rather than some box content. And the browser web-based games, where like the content is downloadable and on the cookie basis, or like maybe it will interact to the server and get the data. Talking about the business model were different that time. So initially it started with the premium, later on it's moved into the freemium, where like you can develop faster the development and go for the iteration development cycle. Then subscription, obviously when you have to continue develop some premium content for your players to keep them engaged. And dynamic. So I've seen few developers who also go for the dynamic system. If someone is paying in your game, they will make it freemium. If someone is not paying, they will make it aid-based content game. And the third major vector, like for the role of the producer, is like game development phase. What game development phase you are? Either you are like new IP, are you in distribution, or is it gaming as a service? So when you are launching a game, the expectations are completely different. You have to interact with the market, so much analysis, prototyping, so many things are involved. When we are talking about your game is already launched and we are talking about the distribution, so you have to just extend platform, you have to extend the device, you have to extend for the like support system for the game. And when talking about the live games, so your game is already into the market, it's a hit, or maybe it's going good, but you have to continue that growth for the game. So your expectation will be more like introducing new content to the game, which can support your KPIs. Based on these three major criteria, your platform business model and the phase, that's how the role of the game producer is defined. Now, being into the part of the Zynga and working on a free-to-play model, I would like to talk about being as a developer, being as a gamer. I always support the premium model, where you can pay upfront and you can have the full experience of the game. But being as a developer, somewhere free to play model is more supportive, because where like the reason why somewhere your production cycle reduced drastically from 3 years to 6 months. So like you can go for the iteration model, you can have with the MVP version, you can launch it, and you can see the soft launch and all those things. Yeah. Then after the soft launch, you can tweak the system further and arrive with a better KPIs. Now interaction between a player and game developers, because you can have players feedback into the system, and those feedbacks can go to the developers, and developers can tweak the system further. And the fourth is more like a predictable market. So rather than like developing some game for like uh, around 2 years or 3 years and going into the market with a high risk, somewhere the risk like you can go through the soft launch process, and you can minimize that risk. So when I'm like talking about the existing game, like Zynga, like also known for the live ops, doing really nice. So how to make a good game for your good feature for your game. So when we always talk about producers and some existing live ops, you have to like change the hierarchy somewhere. We always talk about like somewhere people first, then maybe the people on process and product. But when we are talking about the live ops, it's always start with the product, because your product already in live into the market. You should think about the product. Then you should know the people who are involved into that product. They know in and out of it, and they are good and they have the expertise to develop it further. And that's how somewhere the process which can support those product and people. So what are the like 4 or 5 things when we like go and like launch a new feature into an existing game? Always think about like define, analyze the goals. So like somewhere I'm just putting an example, like few of the examples when we launch a new game, where like we were about to introduce a new animal. So like more like the goals were defining, we were defining the goals like introduce a new animal, release, it should support the release, next iteration, and also support a new animal, a new system, or develop a system which can also make money out of it, and some business number obviously to validate the ROI. So this was the handoff goal given to the team. The team who was working on it, what should they do exactly once they have given the goal? They should break down all these goals into the problem statement, and somewhere that's how they should think. I'm just putting the examples. So new animal, like, but new animal will come with a new experience, and to do that new experience, you need so much of costing. So can we simplify it? Making a new animal, it's not easy. It's also time consuming for the outsourcing and the other plan. Why not to use something which already exists into your pipeline? Support reskin features, and also can be make into the future. So somewhere you have to tweak the system around, so you can make a system which you can reskin easily without putting much of the costing, and pick an existing proven make. So mostly your business is also taken care. So when you are developing a new feature for your game, you don't know what will be the expected outcome. But when you are utilizing some of the previous proven make, it always helpful to support the business. Third, prototype to reduce the ambiguity. So in case like whatever the things we talk about, these were the problem statement, whatever things we are not sure, ideally we should prototype. So like going through the typical model, that's why I was saying like you have to change the process somewhere a bit. So when we are talking about the typical model, maybe the waterfall or agile, when your art is going into the system and also going into the parallel, why not talk about something which you can prototype? So like when we were building that new animal, it was more like we have to go for 2D or 3D. When we are talking about 3D, what is the support we should use? So should we use the 3D vignette, or can we move the entity around? So we were not sure at that time. So when we were building the art anyway, like we started doing all those prototypes. Can we like zoom? So farm 2, I'm just putting an example from the farm will 2, like rather than making a new system where the transition will go and it will go to the new world, why not zoom like inside into some building and we can do something good? So like we just tried that, and how to control moving animals into the background. So farm is always a live game, and there are so many animals are moving around, but will go into the building, how those animals will, like, because they will come and pop up into the middle, and like can we control the three entities? This all prototype we have done into the background, and somewhere we arrive with something better. I'll just show those images. So and the fourth part is like reuse whatever you know well. So when you are working on a system, you know like you can't break that game anyway. So rather than like keep taking so many chances. Reuse whatever you would like to believe. So use an existing make. So anyway, your business taken care, but somewhere the developer and the art part will be also helpful. Keep the same task structure and number. So in that scenario, like not much development cost will be gone, and the tuning wise also you don't need to put much of effort. And can we reuse some generic animations? So like rather than going for new and the best, always for the best, why not use some good and generic animation which will give you that experience? And can we make a tree? So farm 2 always, whenever you launch some feature, it's always the entry point is through a building. And whenever you are doing that building, you will be like launching so many variation of it. So if you launch a building, you have to arrive like 4 or 5 variations. So we decided why not to go for a tree. And those levels, somewhere we made it into the a small progression. Somewhere we will put a plant, then it will grow, and then it will become a tree, and you will somewhere develop that habitat to support a new animal into the tree. So these are the few artwork. Like, so rather than going for a building, typical building, we decided why not go for the tree, and somewhere in the tree inside we'll zoom it, and that landscape, like how to reuse it further. So rather than going for a different artist style, we arrive with the landscape and divide it into the space. So those stages can move further. So example, this was the make we used to develop that animal based experience, and once we are done with that, the complete make was looking like this, where though that was the pop-up book, more like once you will complete your milestones, the pop-up the books will pop in, pop out. But here it was more like all these animals were the live. These are more like a 3D entities, and they were like interacting with each other. A few examples, like, so I didn't took it from the game, it's from the software. So there are patches, but you can see inside a feature UI, somewhere in the 2D UI, these were the 3D entities were moving around. And this all happened because of we have done that prototype. Either we were not in the impression it will do something good. And the last part, when being in the part of production, like it's always whoever will say yes, it's a good producer, who will say no, it's not good. So you have to be always brutal. You have to prioritize it. Like you have to take some hard calls if you have to make some good features. So in this scenario, like whatever the make we were using, there were 12 lessons to prove that feature. But somewhere we said like no, it won't make sense. Why not cut down? Let's make it 6. There were 5 birdhouse, but like making 5 birdhouse and introducing so many entries were typical. So let's stick to the one. And like trailer, we always launch some marketing trailer to create that buzz into the market. But somewhere we were running short of the costing into the feature itself. So why not utilize the costing to improve this feature better? So in short, if you'll ask me, analyze the goal, define the goal, analyze your goals, and make the problem statement. Utilize things whatever you know well, reuse if possible, and the third is like if required you have to make it the brutal prioritization also. That's how like we develop features. If you have funding, we can go wild, but whenever you don't have a funding, you have to like consider all those things when you are building a feature. That's it from my end. Questions? Not complete. Okay. So the game producer role, media producer role, film producer role are completely different. So like somewhere it's entertainment media. So like whenever we'll talk about some small funding part. So funding is not like someone put the money. Film producer are the people who will put the money into the system, and the directors and the other people will work on it, and they'll make it. They will launch the movie. But in the game production, it's more like the resource and the budgeting part we'll talk about. It's more like the team. So in case if I have to make some game, I have to make some feature, how many people I would be looking for? What is the main days effort I am looking for? And based on the ROI call, they will be deciding, should I fund these many resources in this feature, should I fund it in some other feature, or should I make a different game rather than making a game. In the media industry, like those producers are also a bit different, because it's like maybe the advertisement and all those, like media exactly, like I didn't get like which industry you are talking about. Like,
So, for example, see a Hollywood movie, they'll have something called an executive producer.
yes.
How is that different from a game producer?
In the game producer. So in game production, like the people who are like in a studio and they are working on that game, they are producer, and in there the hierarchy also goes like producer, senior producer, and something. And somewhere in the publication, he's like sitting outside of your studio and coordinating it all. But he is the main guy who will decide, who will take all those calls. Those people are called your executive producers. And in-house itself, like the era, if there is an executive producer, their hierarchy will be like not like, he will be just managing one game. He will be like managing a portfolio of 2-3 games, and he will be taking call between all those franchises.
So what do you look for when you are hiring a producer?
Good question. So like it's, if you'll ask me, we ask simple. If someone can organize an event very nicely and he can consider all the points, then I'll think, okay, he's the guy who understands the requirement first. So if you're organizing a event, you should understand all your requirements, right? So someone who can understand the requirement well, he's the one. Someone who can follow the instruction well. So somewhere over a period of time they can develop their skills. They should be good. They're like coordinating all those people. And third, the interest in the gaming. Because anyway, like you are good, but you will just communicate. You will become a facilitator, but you won't become a good producer. So your first interest should be the game and making a game for the player. And that game should also make money. That's how like these 4-5 points we consider. And gaming into people obviously will have.
Can freshers immediately become producers or they have to work?
They can go for the internship. So there are so many companies are there. Because game producer, it's more like a people manager job. And I'm not sure like many company will offer them to directly go into the system. So there are companies who offer the internship, and over an internship like someone can groom themselves. Like they will have the support from their mentors or buddy. So in a 6 month they can also see through like how things are working. Either things are in their support or like they should move into some particular functions. Because producer is not one function. It's always overarching.
We also have a job function called as product owner. So how similar and different is that particular role to producer?
Interesting. So product owner is term is coming from the IT background in general. Because in gaming there were no one called like product owner. But when we talk, and in the always when we talk about the IT, there were marketing, sales, finance, someone who is more like a producer side, they were the product owner. But when we are talking the gaming right now, the way functions works, there are product manager into the system, and there are product manager into the system, and they take care about the product part. Fine, like the business KPIs and all those. So someone like the producer, I would say 80%, 90% producer is the product owner job. But like they are also responsible for the business KPI, and if they can excel further, so few companies also talk about the EP or the like somewhere AGM role, right? Few companies rather than like creating that role, they will say, okay, he is the product owner, he is the one who will like not like a product guy, but like he will drive how the product should work. No, I don't think so. Because PMs, like those people will be doing the data analysis part. They will propose what should work, what should not work, what are the risks we should take. But product owner is the guy who will tell this is feasible with my team. This is good for the player, and this should go into the game. So it's a product owner is the one who will decide the quality. PM will say, okay, these 4-5 things we should consider, and we'll make some awesome game. But by the time you want to connect all those 4-5 things, you want to elaborate with your team, you want to enable your team, I don't think so. That vision will go into the. So PMs will give you the inputs, the differentiation, but the product owner will ensure those inputs are considered, then they are making something. Not like earlier they used to see, but in the premium gaming there were not like these metrics were there because your game is out. But here, like, depends on the company structure. Because I've seen in company where the producers are also taking care about the product and the KPI, business KPIs. But few companies like Zynga, EN, all those, where the product managers are there. So they are the people who will like more responsible for the product KPIs, and they are collaborating with the producers to ensure that whatever they are making, some ROI out of it. So it's depends on company. Like, but if someone like being as a producer who knows how to make a game, how to develop a game, and good if they can go and talk to their business and they also understand KPIs, then they can run the startup.
Sometimes it's possible, sometimes having the right thing, but sometimes a guy can get how a person can sometimes they need to figure out team member can just happen. Sometimes they are not it's good as a task, sometimes they distract. So how the
So, good, like, interesting question. A daily conflict, how to resolve the daily conflict, I would say. So, like, first of all, if you'll ask about, like, we all are for the same reason, into the same company, fine. I do understand, like, there are people, like, they are very into about their ideas, and somewhere they will start fighting to each other. And it's expected. First of all, you like I would encourage those people who will fight to each other because it's they are working for like they are fighting for the product rather than for their individual ego. So I have to just make their ego out of it. I have to like understand his perspective. I have to understand his perspective. Fine. I have to put my perspective and somewhere like depends who has the veto power. Fine. And like what is the call? If I can put some data analysis into it and I can prove my point, then I have to like resolve that conflict through that. I have to, if you'll simply ask me, I have to understand people, what is their perspective. And there is no right answer to it. Because there are like, it's more like an approach. There are 100 ways to solve. 100 ways to solve. Because if you'll ask me, I know these people won't listen anyway. So I won't wait, I won't like tell anything that time. I'll wait for the right time for a day or two. That time I'll make my point and get things done. That's how the production works. Okay? Thank you.